Episode 118 of Scrambled. Welcome, I'm Chad Douglas.
And I'm Nikki Shields.
And we are talking about tantrums or meltdowns. And as we often like to say at the beginning here, if you have younger kids, I always think of, terrible twos or a three-nager or teenager. The point is you can have meltdowns at any age. I mean, one at work today.
I was going to say, including in your 40s. There's really no time where tantrums aren't relevant. So we're going to talk a little bit about what kids need when they're having a tantrum, what maybe adults need also when they're having a tantrum, and we'll break it down by age just a little bit. We won't be super specific. There's just a couple groups there that we can advise.
Because the behavior is a form of communication.
Absolutely.
Is that true for the terrible twos and the three-nagers?
Yep. Okay. A tantrum or a meltdown is not misbehavior. It is a form of communication, and it is a stress response. It is your child's nervous system going offline for logic, reasoning, problem solving, all those things you kind of wish they were doing in that moment, not available to them. So a tantrum is just a complete loss of rational thinking that comes from being overly stressed or upset.
Is that the brainstem fight or flight mechanism kicking in?
You're operating from your brainstem in that moment. Your logic center is just, it's like when I try to print and it's like printer offline. I don't know why, can't fix it. It's just not going to work till it's ready to work. And the same is true of our brains.
Okay. So we often, too, like to reference Inside Out. And I think about that in the first movie. Riley has quite a meltdown. Yes. And they reference that by having the control center just be nuts. Yeah.
Yep. So there's a lot of things your kids don't need, or adults don't need in the middle of a meltdown. Can you guess what some of those things are?
How about the wise words of you need to calm down?
Yeah, that's not what you need. That is because in order to follow that direction, you would have to be using logic, reasoning. And again, we just said those things are not available to us during a meltdown.
Why? I know you're not a neurologist or a brain expert, but why does the logic just take vacation?
Because...
Excellent answer. Moving on.
Because it does, Chad.
And maybe that's all we need to do for this is just know that it's not there working properly.
There are a lot of technical ways to answer this question, and I don't feel qualified to throw most of those out. I've always thought of it as this, like when you get really upset, your breathing pattern changes, and that's sort of what ignites this sense of like you're in danger, you're in mortal danger. And so then your brainstem is like, hold on, we need to be in survival mode. We don't need to worry about all this other stuff. And so then you just sort of change which part of your brain you're using. And it has to do with your physiological response, your central nervous system, and also the emotions that are floating around in there can set all that off. That was not technical at all.
But I follow, so that's good.
Okay.
It's just as primal as like a saber-toothed tiger coming to attack you. Your brainstem kicks in and goes, you got to either stay and fight or get the heck out of here. Or there's the new one, the fawn.
Yes, fawning. Yes. So it's no different than being chased by a bear, right? Like,
a little bit.
but your brain doesn't know the difference. And that's so fascinating to me is our brains don't know the difference between not being able to find our keys in the morning or being chased by a bear. Yeah. When you're in that state, you've gone completely primitive, and you can't get back up here until you've settled down and you feel safe again. And we'll walk through that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna walk through that, but going back to what the parents do, what do they need to not do?
Okay, so no, you need to calm down. No consequences. Like you are grounded for the rest of your life. I'm taking your phone. You don't get your car. All of those things not super helpful. Okay. No logic, no reasoning. None of that's gonna help. No begging, no pleading. None of that makes any difference. Really, oftentimes words are not helpful at all. So the kids don't need those things.
What about my best friend guilt?
That is also not super helpful.
Shocking.
Guilt has its place.
Okay.
Pretty sure we did an episode on that.
Yeah, did we? If not, we should.
Episode 119.
I could learn about that.
Guilt.
Guilty pleasure. So you cannot rationalize with that child. So I'm going to assume one of the things you can do is acknowledge, I see you're upset.
Acknowledging, empathizing, is the best way for them to feel heard and seen. And when you think about yourself, if you're in a meltdown mode, if you're having a tough day and somebody says, you look really stressed, you look really upset right now, that makes you feel seen and heard. And that can do a lot to kind of start to pull you back out of your brainstem and into your frontal lobe, into the part of your brain that can logic and reason. But when a child is in meltdown mode, when an adult or a teenager, any age person is in meltdown mode, the things that we are tempted to do, the lectures, the explanations, all of that stuff that like instinctively sort of comes out of our mouths.
Out the window.
I have a lecture for everything. But they require a regulated brain, and your child does not have that. So those things aren't going to work. So your goal then as a parent is to get that brain re-regulated.